Stories, you just got to talk about it in black and white. Dateline, September 2025. Russian drones are on the march, crossing over the Polish border as Allied forces in Europe ready their response. Here at home, Chancellor Trump springs into action, performing his terrifying war dance. Sorry, ladies, he's swollen.
But there was one performance this year that stunned me. There was nothing good about it, but it was effective and it did its job. It made its intended audience laugh when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity.
The night belonged not to politicians, but to performers who knew the stage better than anyone. Stephen Colbert and Meryl Streep joined forces in a way no one saw coming, dismantling Donald Trump's carefully built image in front of a live audience. Colbert brought the sharpness of satire, Meryl delivered the elegance of truth wrapped in poise. Together, they transformed comedy into confrontation and performance into revelation. This wasn't just entertainment, it was exposure. Trump has faced criticism before, but this moment cut differently. It wasn't about policies or scandals, it was about character. Viewers didn't just laugh, they gasped, realizing they were watching the collapse of an illusion crafted by Trump himself and stripped away in real time.
Today, I gotta say this, today Donald Trump's horoscope should have warned him he'd have a surprise run-in with a long-lost pervert, because the story of his disturbing friendship with Jeffrey Epstein keeps getting more. Earlier this summer, the Wall Street Journal reported that back in 2003, Trump contributed to a book for Epstein's 50th birthday, and the letter he wrote was a Picasso of...
If we live through this precarious moment, if his catastrophic instinct to retaliate doesn't lead us to nuclear winter, we will have much to thank this president for, because he will have woken us up to how fragile freedom.
September 2025. A turbulent month of scandals, international crises, and desperate speeches from Trump. Against this backdrop, Colbert and Streep took the stage not as entertainers, but as witnesses to a cultural shift. Colbert framed Trump as a blooper reel of history, every victory turned into comedy gold. Meryl Streep brought gravitas, reminding everyone that politics isn't theater, and that leadership can't survive on applause alone. Their words didn't just sting, they resonated. Audiences knew this was bigger than a roast. This was the sound of laughter colliding with truth, of Hollywood holding up a mirror to politics. Trump's response was predictable: anger, denial, projection. But in this moment, the world wasn't listening to him. They were listening to them.
Thankfully, with Europe on the brink of war, America has a statesman in office who can reassure the world with a steady hand and calming words. Today he posted, "What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go." I can't believe Russia would dare take an aggressive action like this after Trump laid down a...
Colbert has made a career of satire, but that night, his jokes carried a weight they rarely had before. He wasn't just mocking Trump, was revealing him. With comedic timing sharpened like a blade, he portrayed Trump as a man addicted to illusion, incapable of delivering reality when it mattered most. Every punchline landed not just for laughs, but for clarity. Trump's casinos became metaphors for collapse, his branding disasters symbolic of chaos. By the time Colbert framed Trump's presidency as the worst casting choice in history, the audience wasn't just laughing, they were nodding. It was a moment when humor became history, when satire crossed into documentation, and when Colbert reminded America that comedy can be the purest form of truth.
And it broke my heart when I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie. It was real life. And this instinct to humiliate someone powerful, it filters down into everybody's life because it kind of gives permission for other people to do the same thing. Disrespect invites disrespect. Violence incites violence. When the powerful use their position to bully others, we all lose. And we have to remind each other of the privilege and the responsibility of the active empathy.
Meryl Streep didn't need to raise her voice to command the room. Where Colbert cut with wit, she cut with elegance. She approached Trump not as a politician but as a role, a performance stripped bare. She highlighted his constant need for superlatives, his exaggerated gestures, his desperate obsession with applause. In her delivery, the world saw not a strong man, but an insecure performer terrified of silence. Every word dripped with precision, every pause carried power. This wasn't rage, it was dissection. Streep used the tools of her craft to dismantle the illusion of strength, proving that sometimes the sharpest weapon is restraint. The crowd erupted not in laughter, but in awe. Trump had never looked so small.
There's one bit of good news, and strangely, it comes from Washington, D.C., because today, right? Today marks the end of Trump's executive order taking control of the city. This means the police force is returned to the city's hands, and just in time, because Trump's hands have begun to smell a little gamey. Trump claims his 30-day fascist makeover reduced crime.
The brilliance of their dual performance was in the contrast. Colbert's humor softened the audience, made them laugh, lowered their guard. Then Streep stepped in, transforming that laughter into reflection. Together, they created a rhythm joke, revelation, punchline, truth. Trump, who thrives on dominating the stage, suddenly looked out of place, overshadowed not by politicians or pundits, but by artists who understood performance better than he ever could. The irony was crushing. Trump's entire career has been about performance, yet when judged by masters of the craft, his act collapsed. The audience saw it, the cameras captured it, and the internet amplified it. For once, Trump wasn't the main character. He was the punchline in someone else's story.
So it came down to her. She was one of the only women who was in business at that time, and she ran the paper only because she inherited it.
It's funny because I feel like if this movie had come out 2 years ago, our reaction would be, oh, it's unthinkable that a newspaper wouldn't print this information because the president told them not to. But now it doesn't seem so unthinkable anymore. And is that a total coincidence that this movie came out now and was made during this administration?
Well, I think the assault on the press and freedom of the press and the attempt to, by government to shut down a story is something that's risen over and over again since, Brave New World. But
since this weekend.
Colbert zeroed in on Trump's relationship with truth, or rather, his refusal to have one. Fact-checkers became punchlines. Entire policies looked like rough drafts never edited. Colbert mocked the endless improvisation, showing how Trump bent reality to fit his ego. But beneath the laughter was something darker. When comedy is built on lies, the punchline isn't funny, it's terrifying. Colbert painted Trump's presidency as a carnival of distortions, where reality was optional and spectacle was king. The crowd roared, but the undertone was clear. This wasn't exaggeration. This was documentation. Every laugh was a warning. And every joke revealed what America already feared. Trump's act wasn't a script gone wrong. It was the script he always intended.
According to the Journal's reporting, his note was framed by a hand-drawn outline of a naked woman and featured what appeared to be the future president's signature as a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. But wait, there's more. The note read in part, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful..."
Streep added weight by exposing what happens when performance replaces governance. With calm precision, she explained how Trump's cruelty-like mocking a disabled reporter wasn't just theater. It was real. It gave others permission to do the same. Disrespect trickled down, violence echoed upward. She reminded the audience that words are not harmless, they shape culture, inspire action, and normalize behavior. And when the powerful use their platform to humiliate, society fractures. Her words didn't need jokes. They cut with clarity. In that moment, Trump's actions weren't framed as political missteps. They were framed as moral failures. Streep reminded everyone that empathy is power, and that Trump's refusal to wield it cost more than his reputation. It cost America its reflection.
Donald Trump got the Meryl Streep treatment this week. Not necessarily a good thing. Take a look. Monday, she put on a spray tan, a belly of a sort, and a big red tie to deliver a Trump impression.
Donald Trump,
My Shakespeare and the women you will bow with the white.
The show then pivoted to Trump's rallies, his self-made stage, his traveling circus. Colbert mocked them as comedy specials, recycled material stretched beyond parody. Every speech was leftovers reheated, a desperate attempt to cling to applause. Trump believed cheers equaled policy, but Colbert reframed him as a comedian who didn't realize he was the joke. Streep deepened the blow, stripping away the lights and sound, asking, "What remains when the shouting stops?" The answer, she said, is nothing but fear of silence. Trump's rallies, once symbols of dominance, became proof of fragility. A man addicted to validation is never secure in power. The crowd laughed, but beneath it, there was unease. Suddenly, the spectacle felt empty.
Friday, Donald Trump signed an executive order to rebrand the Defense Department as the Department of War. Ooh, a rebrand. You know what that means. The Pentagon is getting bangs. It's just fresh.
Trump's contradictions became their next target. Colbert joked that his reversals weren't strategy, they were bad improv, the kind where the actor forgets the setup. Every flip-flop, every denial, became a punchline. Colbert revealed that Trump sold certainty but governed with inconsistency. Streep followed, pointing out how true leaders embrace nuance, while Trump clung to volume. He shouted where wisdom was needed, exaggerated where subtlety mattered. For Streep, this wasn't just a flaw, it was tragedy. Leadership became noise. Governance became spectacle. And for all his bluster, Trump looked less like a president and more like a caricature who believed his own script. The irony was undeniable. A man who demanded loyalty from the world couldn't even stay loyal to his own words.
Everything and sued the Wall Street Journal for $20 billion, calling the letter. You guys were a little late. Now, calling the letter non-existent. Turns out existent, because yesterday, the House Oversight Committee released it, and whoops-a-puby. That sure as hell looks legit. It's directly from the Jeffrey Epstein estate. It's exactly what the Wall Street Journal reported, and the signature identically matches a bunch of ones from the same era.
The Epstein controversy made the roast turn darker. Colbert mocked Trump's birthday note to Epstein, ridiculing the absurdity of a president entangled in such scandals. The crowd laughed nervously, aware of the weight behind the humor. Streep, however, pivoted to history. She reminded the audience that history doesn't preserve noisy, it preserves meaning. Trump, she argued, mistook visibility for permanence, not realizing that spectacle fades. His desperate need to etch his name into history had backfired, would be remembered, but not as he wanted. Instead of statues and legacies, his name was tied to scandals, blunders, and chaos. Her delivery was calm, almost mournful. It wasn't rage. It was inevitability. Trump's flame burned bright, but it would not last.
Trump explained his reasoning for this unreasonable decision.
We've been talking about this Department of War. So we won the First World War. We won the Second World War. We won everything before that and in between. And then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense.
Yes, we went woke. Remember, they changed it to the Department of Defense during the Truman administration. You know that famously woke era. After all, they did drop the atomic bomb from the
Colbert then shifted focus to Trump's obsession with relevance. Even after losing power, Trump clung to microphones, refusing silence, terrified of irrelevance. Colbert painted him as a man addicted to attention, unable to exit the stage gracefully. The humor was biting but also sad. Trump wasn't just mocked, he was pitted. Streep reinforced this, noting that true strength is shown in knowing when to leave. Trump, she argued, turned his encore into tragedy, bowing long after the applause had stopped. The image was haunting, an actor chasing an audience that had already left the theater. Together, they captured not just the comedy of Trump's persona, but the loneliness that defined it. The show was ending. Trump just refused to walk off stage.
Despite all this evidence, Trump's allies are pretending that there's no evidence. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson today.
Mr. Speaker, do you think the Trump birthday note to Epstein is real?
I don't. They say it's not.
I don't think it's real. They say it's not. While I have you seen the president's new clothes? He's hired the finest tailor in all the kingdom. Now he has gorgeous robes.
The cabinet chaos came next. Colbert mocked the revolving door of Trump's White House, likening it to a sitcom that couldn't keep a cast. Every firing, resignation, or scandal became a subplot in a larger comedy of dysfunction. The laughter was relentless. But then Streep shifted the lens. She pointed out how loyalty was demanded but never returned, how allies were discarded the moment they became inconvenient. It wasn't just politics, it was insecurity. A man who required constant praise but collapsed under criticism. She explained that true leaders embrace accountability, but Trump recoiled from it at every turn. The contrast between comedy and critique created a devastating rhythm. Colbert showed the chaos. Streep revealed the cost. Together, they exposed the truth. As the performance built toward its finale, one message became clear. The dismantling of Trump was not a single act. It was ongoing, fed by his own actions, sustained by his own contradictions. Colbert closed with satire, mocking Trump's obsession with crowd sizes, his endless need for the biggest and the best. Streep finished with gravity, reminding the world that power without substance always fades. Together, they left no need for a final punchline. Trump, they implied, was the joke that never ends, a performance that keeps writing itself because the star refuses to leave the stage. And that's the tragedy. History will not remember the noise. It will remember the emptiness behind it.